Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back to the planet at no cost to you, and there's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement. Only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
The Bachelorette and Friends. From first love to happy ever after.
What's that?
From dating to dick pics.
Oh my. Oh no!
The Bachelorette and Friends. Oh, I love a good dick.
This podcast contains sexual references, coarse language, and adult themes from the beginning and throughout. It is not recommended for listeners under the age of 15.
Hello and welcome to the Bachelorette and Friends. I'm your host, Carla Anita Matiazzo. And today's guest is an actor, a singer, a vocal coach. She was on season 8 of The Voice in 2019. She was also a principal performer for the Queen's Symphonic Arena Spectacular World Tour. And she also played Grizabella in Cats on the Asia Tour. And she's also a healer. Welcome to the podcast, Erin Cornell.
Hello. Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good.
Excellent.
I was running around with my cat, but you accommodated for that. Couldn't get her inside for the interview, could I? Anyway, it's fun. She's inside. We're sorted.
Animals are the best. They are the
Animals
best.
are the best.
Okay, so on this podcast, as the people that follow along know, we go from crushes to happy ever after in inverted commas and everything in between. So let's start at crushes. Can you remember either like a crush you had at school or even if it was a celebrity crush when you were younger? And what was the story around that part of your life?
100% there's two. First crush, the non-celebrity version, was being a youth worker that came into our high school, and he was on, so we were like buddies for the year 7s. We would have been in about year 10, I think, and we were buddying the year 7s, and we went down to Flinders down the Mornington Peninsula to see the year 7s and like hang out with them as their buddies. Anyway, this youth leader from the local church was there, and he literally, I mean, he reminded me of just Jesus, really, like a beautiful, beautiful man with the most amazing eyes and hair. And yeah. I just absolutely fell for him. I was obsessed. I literally had a boyfriend at the time, my first boyfriend. And like, this is horrific. And I used to visualize youth worker man. Well, not youth worker man. He was like a young teenager. Yeah. But I used to like visualize him as I was kissing my boyfriend. I mean, horrific. And I just was so, I mean, he was just beautiful and kind of like the ideal picture of, I mean, it's changed now. It's more about the personality. But at that point, he was the ideal, you know, for me looking man, blue eyes, dark and handsome, like the classic. And so I remember we were getting on a boat to go look at dolphins or something with the year 7s, and I was trying to be like super cool, and then I just like fell into the boat in front of him, like I slid on my thongs or something, my flip-flops, and I just like, yeah, but I was trying to give it like face. I was trying to be like, oh, he's going to totally notice me, and then I just fell. So he did notice me, but probably for the wrong reasons. But yeah, that was definitely my first like intense crush, like so obsessed with him. And then the other one would have been Hugh Jackman, confidently.
Right.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman in Corelli, the TV show he met Deborah Lee Furness, his wife, on, and Hugh Jackman as Joe Gillies in Sunset Boulevard.
Ah.
Yeah. Like wrote to him, used to wait at the stage door. He'd always run out like super quick, so I'd always miss him, devastated. But yeah, just like he wrote me a little fan letter and signed, I mean, you know, I was there is actually a photo of us at the Carols by Candlelight rehearsal with me with my Sunset Boulevard t-shirt and just standing there with my massive cowlick. I was about 13 years old, and him just, and Mum got it actually poster print blown up from Kmart, like literally. It was in our house when I was a teen, like when we lived together. So yeah, that would definitely be my celebrity crush. who ironically still, he looks like the youth leader. They like the powers combined.
Oh.
So there's definitely a look. There's definitely a look I've gone for in the past. Yeah. Anyway.
Brilliant.
There you go.
From that look, because as teenagers, really, let's be honest, it's a lot about hormones and a lot about the look of somebody, right?
Devastatingly. Yeah.
So with that look, did that follow through with any of your other relationships post high school, or did you evolve and become attracted to different things?
Well, okay. I definitely will say there has been a piece of thread of my romantic life where that human, that look has appeared quite frequently.
Right.
But then also on that thread between, there has been beautiful individuals that don't look like that at all and were either, look completely different. One partner in particular was a lot older than me, 25 years older than me. That was a very unexpected surprise. Mm-hmm. We were touring the show. He was my best mate on the tour. And he went in for the kiss after opening night in Newcastle. And I was like, oh my God. And I freaked out going, no. Like, he can't do that. He's too much. He's too old, and not too old. He was just a lot older than me. And then one of the dancers on it just said, well, he's your best friend. And he's still the fox. He's really beautiful and he's kind. And so it kind of made me see it differently. And then the next night we were singing our duet on stage and something just clicked. And I was like, oh, what am I doing? He's magnificent. And we had a great, 2 years or whatever we had together.
So what were the lessons you learned from that relationship once you got past the age difference? What was it about the age difference that made you ponder at the beginning?
Well, I think just social conditioning, that there's supposed to be because we're allowed to do things and we're not allowed to do things, and things are right and things are wrong. And to an extent, of course, that has to stay, that has to be in place with being underage, etc.
Yes,
it's very important. But if you've got a soul connection, I don't see that. I mean, it really was irrelevant. By when we started, mid dating. What was the lessons? Oof. I mean, there was many lessons in that relationship. I guess the positives I'll talk about would be, because there was negatives and positives, but I'd rather talk about the positives, is that he was probably the person I was truly, that I'd ever dated, the most authentic to myself.
Isn't that interesting?
We were dags. We were dorky dags. We were just, we could make up, like we were both, obviously talented artists to an extent, but we could literally for hours just make up songs going like just being, or just gibberish songs with the guitar, or like just the stupidest stuff, pajamas and all day, terrible hair. But we just laughed, and I think that was very, very powerful and fun, just beautiful. And also, I love stories. I love telling stories, but I also love hearing stories. And I love that he had lived, and I loved listening.
Yes.
And I also, but then on another breath, there was a lot of stuff that he got from me, like in life, tools, etc. And so then, at some points the age was completely irrelevant, but then, so it had a lot of layers to it. Yeah.
Well, that's beautiful. That's excellent. Yeah. Those lessons are really good lessons. Yeah. So would you say that there's been relationships in your life where you have had to compromise too much with your boundaries in able to keep somebody interested or keep somebody around, or satisfy their needs before your own?
Oh, of course. I feel like that's everyone's 20s, isn't it? And probably 30. Yeah. The lessons from that is it never fucking works. It never works.
No, it doesn't.
And when you own and value yourself and everything that you have to offer in its fullness, that's when people really gravitize and are attracted to you, because we think molding is what people want, and it's not. And it's certainly not the person that I want to attract. Maybe it is for some people. Maybe for a narcissist or something, that molding and becoming smaller is ideal.
Yes.
But for the person that I desire to attract, FYI I'm single, is why I'm saying that, is, someone that would hold all of me.
Yes.
And I'm very, very, very careful these days, because that has been my past. But I'm very, very careful of what I'm putting out there, and how truthful I can be to myself, when dating, etc. Yeah, because it's really important.
So because I think you and I are quite similar with what you've just said there in regards to holding your own space and being very careful who you let into that space, especially romantically, how do you go about navigating dating then? Do you go on dates with that in mind, making sure that you are listening to your intuition, and if there's red flags there early on, you pull the pin? What's your process in vetting the bullshit?
Yeah, so I guess in the past, because I maybe consider it being open to love, but I don't think it was at all, to be honest. I think it was in denial. I would be like, okay, well, that's a red flag, but what if I debba, but then there's these positives about the person, etc. And then now it's a game changer of my best friend Erin. I told her years ago to make this list. No, it's actually Deborah. We're referencing Deborah Lee Furness and Hugh Jackman again.
Yes.
Spirit animal of my life journey. But basically, they don't know it, but yeah. Deborah Lee said on an interview about Hugh and her that a friend told her to write this list of the idyllic man and read it out to yourself every night before bed or at breakfast or whatever. And so I told my best friend Erin, and no, I'm not talking about myself. I literally have a best friend called Erin. She did it and found her husband. And so, but to the T, like to the video game she wanted him to like, I mean, I wouldn't have video games on my list personally, but that's fine.
No,
Lots of people do. People love this stuff. So, very, very specific, but also the values she wanted in the person, and him fitting in like my list now, like getting along with my family and friends, and inspiring and inspires me and supports me with all my career endeavors. I support him, for it to be also mutual, for it to not just be like him, also like what am I going to do to attract that vibration to you. So but that's actually been a really wonderful, because she said, I don't understand why you haven't done it all those years ago, and I didn't, but I've done it just recently, and I actually do read it probably every morning and night when I'm having my coffee or whatever, and it reminds me of the values that I'm wanting to attract. So if I am dating and something like a red flag goes, just to remind myself of those values, and that's what you're really, really desiring. Obviously, yeah. Actually, I was gonna bend a bit. I was like, no, I don't want to bend. Like that's what I want to attract now.
Have you included in the list, Erin, how you want to feel when you are with that person?
Yeah. So my incredible body positive coach at the moment, Georgie Thomas, her thing that she talks about is, and it feels so beautiful doing, is you write like in your journal, pretending that that person's already come and how it makes you feel and what he's done, like, and you just like journal it going, and he makes me feel like this and and yeah, all those things that you want to feel, and you write it down like it's happened. That's really lovely, because it's something, super like fantasy rom-com play, like it's Daniel Steele's dreamy. Yeah, it's great. It's really fun to do that, and
that's cute.
Yeah, and it's just, you know, I've been dating. I went on a few dates post lockdown from App World, and to be honest, the apps, like, I don't judge it for other people, but for some reason it just doesn't align with me. It just doesn't, you know. But I did put myself out there for a little bit on them, and I did go for a few dates, and they weren't terrible. Like, and I do believe it is exercising that muscle like everything else. Like, it's just, you know, it's showing up to the universe that you are open. Like, I do welcome it. I don't do App World now, but you know, that's not to say I won't do it again, but I'm saying it wasn't a terrible experience.
Well, that's good. So let's talk about dating. So what's the best date you've been on, and what's the worst date you've been on, and why on both of those spectrums?
I think the best date I've been on is, I'm just going back, because one of my defaults is that I have tended to, in the past, whack on my masculine quite heavily in planning the dates, in organising the dates, there's very few that I can literally think of on the top of my head where someone has taken me on a date. There is a few, I mean, there is quite a lot, but I won't say that they've been good. But let's just say, what's the best date I've been on? La 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 la. I'm just trying to think. Oh my goodness. Let's think of the worst first. The worst was recently with this like French guy from App World.
Yes.
And it's amazing how someone in a photo can look so beautiful. Very, very attractive Frenchman. Gives me a call, like says things like, I told him how when I lived in the UK, I never went to France because I was waiting for my mum, but then when my mum arrived, we went to Bath and did Glastonbury and had a big old, you know, hippie retreat instead. And anyway, and then he was like on the phone saying, oh, well, he's like, you know, maybe it's meant to be, so I take you to France, you know, like literally. And I was like, oh my God, like we go to France with the French hot man. And then we met each other at the train station in Richmond. And it's amazing how someone's energy and aura can be so, you know, they can be the most physically, technically attractive person in the world, but their energy and aura is so not. Yeah. And that was him. And he was so cocky and complained the entire time about his muscles hurting from the gym. And I was like, got it. You went to the gym. Like, I get it. And then went to the toilet for about like 15 minutes. I kid you not. Just when the meals like arrived, so the meals came out, and then he was like, "Gotta go to," and then he just like went away to the toilet.
Drugs.
Came back. Pardon? I'm
assuming he was snorting something. Is that what?
I mean, it was a brunch. Like, I don't know, maybe. And then right at the end, after him kind of cancelling a bunch of times before ever meeting me, and then saying, I'm going to make up for it, we're going to have the most beautiful breakfast. And then going, well, are you going to pay for yours? Like, which I'm all for. I don't mind, I don't mind that stuff. I don't mind going, I'll buy a round, you buy a round, I'll buy mine. But when you've like talked it up going, you're going to, you know, this is going to be I'll make up for it, and this is going to be the most amazing day, la la la. And then he's like, yeah, will you pay for yours? It kind of shits on it a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
So yeah, I would say that was probably not great. And then, I mean, probably the best date was like just because it was with a man I had intense feelings for, and we went to a play, and then a friend was in, and then we went for drinks after, and it was very simple, but it was just in flow and in alignment and in in lustiness and in gorgeous. When a spark is a spark, I think that's actually more important than a setting. Like, I think it's just I guess it was a setting. It was a summer's night, and
and
when I arrived,
very sophisticated.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. That was a beautiful night. But yeah, I guess the extreme dating settings, you could always rely on me on organising them.
Great.
I took once a lover, I would say partner, but we were never really partners, to a 5-star enchanted love cave in the Blue Mountains. It was advertised on like Getaway or The Bachelor or something, I don't know. And I was like, that's where I'm taking. And then I organised a private chef to cook his favourite food. I packed like a bunch of cheese and moe bottles, and I picked him up in a black car. We're playing his most favourite music with Bubbles, and then the car picked us back up. I mean, that's
fancy as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I have to be, like, that's my personality. Like, I'm Aquarius, I'm very like that. I also have to be careful to not overdo it. Like, may I do it on people that appreciate that stuff instead of almost doing what I've had to be really honest about is who are you doing it for? Like, is this really what you want? And so you're creating this for you to be in this scenario with this person. Like, there's an element that I've had to be very honest about myself. Like, is it manipulation? Is it manipulating a situation to get what you want? So I've had to really, I've done some deep work with this stuff, because I want to call people's bullshit, but I also want to call my own bullshit.
Yeah.
So we have to take responsibility in this dating game to an extent. We can't be like, what an asshole. It's like, well, you know what? And I truly believe this. People tell you who they are every single day. They tell you from day one. There's like, men, I've had partners or lovers, and they have told me who they were on their first date, and I've just tried to like pretend I didn't hear it and then keep going in this, like, and then 3 years later, literally a scenario 3 years later, where you've gone, I have nothing left, this person is never going to choose me.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
Yeah. So what would you, with that scenario in mind, what is your cutoff? Like, are you like, okay, 3 months, and if this guy hasn't decided that he's in, Avafangulo, see you later?
Well, it would be different now, because my last big thing, and why I kind of won't go into too much detail, but was a 3-year thing. It was 3 years of a game. And so, since then I haven't really gotten serious with anyone, because I'm very aware of, like, I don't, the person I want to attract into now, I want that to be my person now. So I have been on a few dates with people going, they're really lovely,
but they're not my person.
But it's not my person. So I'm just going to, I won't really, there's been scenarios where it's been a really lovely first date, and I'm like, yeah, and I could definitely go for a second date, but it's not my person.
Yeah,
I just know. And they know, and that's fine. And usually in the past, it may carry on a bit longer, but these days, no. Like,
who's got the time? Like, really? Who?
Literally. Okay. And there is a time. Like, we're busy working women. Like, there's a lot, to even get on a date these days with, like, all the stuff, career stuff, and, balancing teaching and gigs and masterclasses and interviews like this. I mean, it's like, where do you fit it? I can really see my friends never less go on dates. So it is tricky. It is tricky.
Yeah, it is tricky. And I think I've just gotten to the stage where, I'd been single very, very long time, 6 years, 5, 6 years, because there was a few scenarios around that, but mainly I didn't want just because. I have no desire to get divorced. I know things happen in life, but I'm very much at the stage of I'm ready for my person. So I don't want to waste that energy on just becauses. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, 100%. And yeah, I completely agree with you on that.
I think in your 20s, very much there's the possibility of, oh, this could go somewhere. Let's see where it goes. I'm not interested in the let's see where it goes. I'm not. Yeah, because that, to me, in my 20s, I was very much, like you were mentioning before, happy to have the red flags in my life, and I just don't want them. It's too much energy. It's just not it's not healthy, really, to ignore those things, because your intuition and your inner self is telling you no, 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 no. Yeah, you're giving excuses for that. So speaking of making red flags a part of your life, do you have any deal breakers now that you've collected along the way that you just won't tolerate?
Well, yes. I mean, they have to. I find when I'm dating,
Yes,
that the artist in me, many don't take seriously, and it's really interesting because it's like it's not a hobby. I've made a career out of the arts, so, and it's still sustaining. And it's quite successful. So it's like, I don't like, there's like a eye roll sometimes, like a jokey, like thing. And so I guess like taking what I do seriously.
Yeah, that's important.
Very important. And, another thing, it's more about myself with where I'm at with my body and accepting all of me. But one of the other ones, again, this is probably more me than them, but I want them to accept and love me at any size. So if I tighten up, because I used to with dates in the past, like either not go on dates until I lost a bit of weight. I mean, this is how serious this stuff was. Or, I had to feel like sexually confident in my with my size. But now, if I tighten up like that before a date about the way I look, I then exhale going, no, they're just, the right person will love me at whatever size.
That's right.
But that's been really helpful. And I mean, they have to be funny. Obviously, I want them to, they don't have to have worked out their shit, but they have to be open to doing so, like open to upgrade, open to evolve, not for me, for themselves. I want us to be both on a journey when we are doing this. They don't necessarily have to sit next to me and meditate. It's not a game changer. I personally meditate, and I think it's profoundly effective to a better life. But I mean, if they're outside tickling, I don't even know what the word is, but like tickling away, like doing up a car, that's a form of meditation. If they're like going for a walk, if whatever their thing is, if they have a thing where their brain can decompress and they're aware that they've got their little thing, I'm okay with that.
Yes.
But I just want someone to not hold tight to their baggage, to be willing to work through it. But again, I don't, I remember like reading a Cameron Diaz quote or something a billion years ago, and she was like, they said, what's your ideal man? She's like, a man without baggage. And it's like, I mean, it's probably like not perfect to the word reference, but just meaning I don't expect no baggage. We've all got baggage, but it's just the way we hold it and deal with it.
Yes.
And like we have some life tools to like to be our, and just to welcome being our shiniest versions. Like, let's go, let's live.
Yes. I love what you're saying there. I think in regards to the artist stuff, oh, mate, the amount of times that I have been on dates in the past where people do not understand that this is not a hobby. This is what I do. Like my cabaret stuff in particular, that's my job. Like that's what I do. It's a real turner for me when there's the eye rolling or the, oh yes, that's a hobby. So, but what else do you really do? Like it's just, people don't really understand how consuming it actually is, and how much you really do have to love it to keep going. And I think the other thing that you touched on in regards to baggage, as we get older, everyone's going to have baggage, and it comes in different shapes and sizes. And like you said, it's how it is dealt with and how it is managed. And maybe even how it's reworded, instead of being someone's baggage into someone's blessings, because it's made them exactly who they are now. So it's part of their journey, part of what shaped them to be who they are. I think that's really important too, the active conscious awareness that we all have baggage, but we choose to deal with it in a healthy, effective way. That's so important.
100%. And also, like what you were saying about, you haven't dated for a while, and you're very cautious of who you're going to bring in.
Mm-hmm.
Through that time, it's very important for us to always, like, I always visualize my heart being like a lotus and like keep open, welcome. I am a romantic. I am like, I don't have doubt that I will find my person, and I really have taken the pressure off. I'm 35 years old now, and I used to, probably 2 years ago, have way more pressure on myself that I have to meet that person because my clock's ticking. Yeah. But I have that many friends that, are aging so gracefully, and it's not an issue for me. It's an issue for others. Like I have a lot of people, who was it the other day? I only had a comment the other day going like, congratulate, like go, found out that I was still single or something. It was a friend, and which is, I mean, I had a little talk to this person, but I know it was coming from a place of love.
Yeah.
But it was like, congratulations. I'm so proud of you that you never settled, and that you're still, that you're still kind of living in your light or something. And it was like lovely.
But there's a double-edged sword there a little bit in some of that wording.
Yeah, it just felt, and then, what was the other thing the other day? Someone put up about celebrating an anniversary and saying, I would rather spend one lifetime with you instead of 1,000 lifetimes alone or something. And I was like, happy anniversary, guys. Like underneath, I was like, love you both. But I also was like, just FYI, like, I was still living that lifetime alone, and I have to say I'm having a pretty good time, so I'm just cautious that there is a little bit of like sympathy of the singles,
because they don't know what to do with us. They don't know what to do with us, really.
But it's okay. Like it's okay. I won't lie. I have probably indulged in the past, going, I just want to be this. I just want to be married. I just want to keep with to my friends that are married with kids. But now I can't deny, I mean, I really am in an era where I'm just calling all my bullshit continuously, but I can't deny what a blessed life I lead. Like I really have a very blessed, indulged, beautiful life. Like it's a good life, and I am very proud I've created my abundance around me for myself, not from someone else. Not that everyone does that, but just meaning, and that's fine too, like whatever works for you. But I'm saying I haven't had that as an option. So I have had to survive, and I have created this abundant flow around me, and I live in a house on a hill in the mountains with my cat, and I am genuinely happy. But I also am excited to bring in that male love energy. Like that's a very exciting thing. I just don't have that pressure on it anymore. Like, oh my God, it has to happen. I'm 35 years old. I understand enough about the universe, that intense, desperate energy will be making it run away even more. So there's no point.
Correct.
And I was going to say as well, this is not about this stuff, but just about the sacredness of our body and intimacy, that I do believe when, I've done the casual sex thing in the past, or I've done, and obviously relationships and having sex. And I do believe it is a very sacral thing when someone enters you.
Yeah.
And so it really is. And then, it's literally entering you. It's literally entering your space.
Yes.
So for me, some people throughout this era being single, yes, has saying, it'd be quite easy for you to just have some casual sex. But I know how much that affects me and affects my aura, affects my energy, because I am very sensitive. My body is very sensitive. And for that to kind of be something to do with, I don't choose to do that at the moment, because I am now only seeking that beautiful, my person to be the next person to enter my space. Like, it's a very, very sacred thing. And a friend of mine who's a healer, she actually, it was Lisa Lister, actually, amazing author who was in Glastonbury. She talks about how she puts on a maxi dress, puts a bowl beneath her, puts sage burning in it, and literally steps over it and sages her vagina.
Oh my God. Wow.
And I think it's amazing, because she said, well, why we're clearing our house. We clear our house when we move into our house, and we clear our house when we're feeling negative energy.
Yeah.
Why aren't we clearing our house?
Yeah.
Why aren't we clearing our temple? And, look, to the listeners, maybe that's oversharing, but I honestly, I just think that stuff's really powerful.
I totally agree with that. I can't, and I think that's why I've stayed single so long and been very selective with any form of intimacy, because that is something that should be sacred. And look, generally, the times where there's been intimacy without strings attached or with no intention of any relationship or anything romantic, I feel shit after. I feel shit. So it's not something that I ever enjoyed, Erin. So, yeah, you and I sound like there's been some things that you've said throughout this episode that sounds exactly like me. So I can resonate and totally understand where you're coming from. It's very interesting.
And I think it is really welcoming to just, those, for me, again, like taking the responsibility of what we can do to date as well, is my thing is, to get uncomfortable, meaning in like give someone your number or that stuff. I had a crush of a guy down the shop near my, like a local, again, not too much details, but a friend of mine was like, well, why aren't you just going with your number? And I was like, I can't. But they're like, well, why not? Like, what? I was like, what could I do to kind of, use an excuse to go in there or whatever? And they were just like, well, what if you just went into the shop? Like, what if you just went into the shop and said, we should go for coffee. We have great banter. Here's my number. I was like, but what if he has a girlfriend? And they were like, yeah, well, then he has a girlfriend. And that's it, the end. Or he could say, yeah, sure. Like, I don't know why we are so scared of that stuff. So that is my challenge at the moment, to jump, because I do a majority of other places in my life, and it's always worked, man. Like, it actually has always worked. So it's like, well, I'm pretty sure it would work in love too.
Yeah. So do you think it's patriarchy that's affected our lack of belief that we can jump? What do you think?
Yeah, a little bit. And I think it's a bunch of stuff that as a human race, we desire to be, we're scared so much to be liked. and accepted.
Yeah.
And for that feeling of rejection,
Yes.
the thought of that from, it goes back into our DNA from being in prep or playgroup or something when a friend goes, no, I want to play with,
I don't want to be your friend anymore.
And it's like, oh my God. And it goes back to that feeling. I'm sure it does. And so it's just like healing that and just, beautiful quotes I say to myself is you can never say the wrong thing to the right people, or, I am lovable, or whatever it is. So you flip the conversation and you go for it. And I say that with, really uncomfortably doing the work, moving forward, doing that shit,
Yes.
Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but also like very liberating.
Yes, very much so. You've dropped a lot of wisdom in this episode that I've really appreciated, and I know the listener will also appreciate that too. Before I love and leave you, do you have any last final parting words of wisdom on this topic that you could give the listener?
I think it's just be authentically yourself always. That's not just in this topic. It's basically in everything. The times where I've failed is when I've tried to conform or be what I think people want me to be. And, sustaining in my world, whatever that is, I was going to say in the arts, but really in my world, it varies, is just really just always owning who I am, always being completely authentic, vulnerable, powerful, like own our gifts. We have been, we've been at service too. Like we've got these gifts that we are at service with. So it's like owning that too, just owning all of it. And then also by doing that, you make other people go, oh my God, I'm safe enough to be myself. And really that's what it's about. Like, it's not even about me. It's about that trickle effect to everyone else. So if other people can feel comfortable to be themselves, and then the world just gets better, right? Because we're all just being, we're not conforming. And I really do believe we're in an era of unlearning. That's what I certainly feel like. I'm not in an era of learning. I'm in an era of unlearning all this human conditioning into just coming back to that purity of authenticity and love. And that's, anyway, we're talking about relationships, but I guess it's all relevant.
It is
you said
relevant.
wisdom. I'm finishing now.
Thank you so much for your time today, Erin. It's been really beautiful and enlightening and just very joyful. So thank you.
I'm only sorry I didn't have any dick pic stories.
The Catchalorette, with friends near and far, from heartache to catfish and sex toys. The Catchalorette and friends. See you next time, if you dare.
Bank of the West is offering the 1% for the Planet checking account. It gives back to the planet at no cost to you, and there's no monthly service charge with any deposit per statement. Only from Bank of the West. Learn more at bankofthewest.com/1%. Additional conditions apply. Member FDIC.
Love this podcast? Support it and sponsor today. Simply head to AuscastNetwork.com for details.